Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite subject, which is, well, first of all, is bamboo, and second of all, is bamboo and its use in medicine. And I want to really emphasize that there's a couple different pathways here. The one that I really hold dear to my heart is the pathway along which I think this forum is mainly talking about, which is the ability to share this with many. And when I say many, I mean the bamboo is a social equalizer. And I mean that in a way that because it is accessible to so many people and because it is so abundant, it should be used in that way to benefit the many instead of like the other grasses, which have been kind of used to benefit few and not always benefit the many. And I think we have an opportunity and a responsibility to do differently with bamboo than we've done maybe with some of the other crops available. And so I really want to emphasize that when we're talking about this, because there's so many applications that bamboo can be used for. And I think one of the things that really speaks to a lot of people is that it's such a functional plant for so many different reasons. I mean, it's a food, it's a medicine, it's construction, it's so many different things, and it's beautiful. You know, I mean, here in the United States, we're still primarily stuck on using it ornamentally. So there's so many aspects to this plant, and I really want to see this information shared globally so that people can access it in their own way for their own family in their own benefit. And it has the potential to do that without costing anybody any money. And health should be available to everybody. It's not something that should only be available to the rich and famous. It should be available to every person. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. And you know, it's such an amazing plant. I started by using, you know, really getting interested in the leaves because they just really called to me. I actually started out as a landscape designer specializing in bamboo and ornamental grasses. And then I really became interested in using it as a food when I worked for Walt Disney Imagineering. And we had a large forage program, which really introduced me to using bamboo for animals and for food. And, you know, I mean, the leaves are an amazing food source, which has now spread to almost every single zoo in the world. Almost every animal in a zoo will have bamboo in their forage program because it's a high mineral content and it's so good for them. And a lot of zoos have put in forage programs where they plant the bamboo because there's so many bamboos that can grow in so many different regions, from negative 25 degrees to, you know, over 100 degrees, 120 degrees. So it's an amazing resource in that manner. And so when we talk about medicinal values of bamboo, it's for people, it's for animals, and it's for plants. And then it's also for the soil. We can't forget the soil. When we're talking about using a plant as a medicine, we always have to talk about that in conjunction as to how the plant is being grown. Because if the plant is stressed out, that's not going to give you the best medicine. You want a happy plant that has lots of nutrients and lots of minerals and all of that nutrition available to it, so, and not in a toxic environment. Bamboo uptakes a lot of nutrients, and it can also uptake a lot of toxins. It can embed them in its waxy coatings of its leaves. It can take that in through the culms. It can take it in through the leaves. It can take it in through rainwater. So on the one hand, that's great if you are doing some remediation of areas. But on the other hand, if you're growing that for medicine, you really want to have an awareness of where that bamboo is being grown and how it's being grown. And when we talk about bamboo, this is so important because there's not just one bamboo. There are many bamboos, and they all are different. You know, there are a lot of different properties in each one, and they vary from plant to plant. And we are so far from knowing, you know, the medicinal values and the nutritional values of each and every plant, and then all the pieces and parts of them. You know, it's a huge undertaking to understand all of that. And what makes it like exciting, because there's no end to the amount of information. I mean, just learning, you know, I love bamboo vinegar, and, you know, I just think it's so fascinating to learn all the different extraction processes of the different parts, because how you extract the bamboo is very important, and a lot of it is dependent upon what you are trying to extract it for and what part you are extracting. So if you're using like the culm or the culm sheaths or the leaves or the roots, or, you know, to date, I've used all the different parts of bamboo. I've used the inner nodes, I've used the stems, the branches, the exterior portion of the bamboo. Every single piece of it can be used for medicine. So when we talk just in basic about extractions, there's water-soluble elements and there's fat-soluble elements. And then there's a range of elements that kind of fall into different categories too. But when we talk about this, it's really important to know what you're trying to extract, because bamboo is very fibrous. Even the leaves are fibrous. The tea even has fiber in it. So it's a super fibrous plant, and therefore we can't access the nutrients without breaking it down in some way. So in the water soluble, just to give you a little bit of an idea, we've got all the B vitamins in there, and they're doing a whole range of things. One of them that's become pretty interesting to me recently is pyridoxine. And it's just a really great example of when I think about extractions from bamboos. You know, the pharmaceutical companies think about extractions, and they think about, I want to take silica out of the bamboo and just insert it into something else as pure silica. I think of it in a different way. I think of it as like, how can I get all of the components of bamboo in a bioavailable format so that I can almost put it back into its whole again, but in a way that I can actually access it, because I can't access it by just chewing on it or, you know, eating it raw like that. That's not going to work for me. It will work for animals, for a lot of animals, but it doesn't work for humans. And so what's a really great example is with B6, right? So one of the things that B6 does is that it helps reduce levels of homocysteine, and homocysteine is a marker for cardiovascular issues. So elevated homocysteine usually indicates that there's some cardiovascular problems. And here's the thing, is that you have B6 in the water soluble, and then you have silica, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But one of the things that silica is good for is strengthening muscles. And what is the heart? It's a muscle. So it's giving flexibility to the capillaries. So here's something where like two of the components are coming together to work really well from completely different angles. And it goes on like that. So what I always try and think about is that these things start working together and layering upon each other. And what I really want to do is try and get as many of those things back into a format that is usable to me. And one of the easiest ways to do that is with the water soluble is to make tea. And it's super easy and it's accessible to everybody. And you get a lot of benefits just from doing that. Minerals. So bamboo is remineralization. Bamboo has the ability to uptake 100% of the nutrients that are available to it. And it does this because, or it's able to do this because it forms massive relationships. We are forming relationships because of bamboo, which is amazing. Bamboo is also amazing at forming relationships in the soil, and it's forming them with its fungal and bacterial partnerships. And it does this really, really well. It's an amazing photosynthesizer, and so it has a lot to trade with these because the photosynthesis is allowing it to make a lot of sugars, and it trades those sugars through these fungal and bacterial partnerships and then trades them to get these high mineral contents. I mean, bamboo could just be used for remineralization, and we all know that one of the biggest problems is our soil degradation, is that we are having issues with our food quality, which is leading to health problems. And so using bamboo for remineralization of ourselves, of our animals, of our livestock, and then of the soil itself and other plants that we are growing is just amazing. And of course, the biggest one that, I mean, they're all really, really important. And the one that has become kind of the calling card of bamboo is silica. This is a picture of bamboo powder, and then this is how I ground it up before I made the powder. What's amazing to me is that when I can do these different extracts or make these different parts and use these different pieces and parts of bamboo, is that you can get such a wide variety of flavors and nutritional content. It is absolutely amazing. I've got teas on one hand that are like kind of like the flavor of a cut grass, and then on the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, the bamboo shoot powder, which tastes kind of like the best organic grain you've ever had, sweet and just kind of oaty type. It's got a really just amazing grain flavor. So it's really fun to like work with all the different pieces and parts and see what can be made from them, because it's endless possibilities. And these are bamboo shoots over here, and then culm sheaths over here. I like to use the culm sheaths of the dendrocalamus, different species in the dendrocalamus, because they have such outrageous colors, and it's really fun. Those colors are indicative of powerful antioxidants. So there's a lot of reds and blacks and blues and all these phenomenal colors that come through, and especially in the dendrocalamuses and the bigger tropicals, and in some others too, but I find those a lot. And so I've started using the culm sheaths, which basically nobody uses anything with those. And I make tea from those, and it's really, really delicious, completely different than from the leaves, because it's definitely got more of a flavor along like the stems and the branches, kind of more of like an oat straw flavor. So, which is kind of like a light brown color and a real earthy type of flavor to it. But I mean, even in the shoots over here, this is a black asper. It's outrageous to see those colors come through. It's really beautiful. One of my favorite ways to make extractions is through something fairly simple, which is a steam distillation. Think of like essential oils, except that not all plants have a lot of essential oils, but all plants can be made into hydrosols. And hydrosols are one of my favorite extractions because they do that good job of putting water-soluble and fat-soluble elements back into a package that is then able to be delivered and more bioavailable. And so hydrosols can be used internally. They're safe for all ages, and bamboo hydrosol has amazing properties. It's basically liquid food for your skin, your hair, and and like I said, you can take it internally as well. Your skin just completely soaks it up. It'll heal sunburn overnight. It'll heal eczema, any kind of irritated skin conditions, things like that. You can use it on pets. You can use it on old people. You can use it on everybody. So it's a very safe format. And what I like is that it is, again, a really kind of almost putting bamboo back into a whole format that is accessible. And then the other thing that you can make with a steam distillation is you can make alcohol. So you can make bamboo alcohols, like a bamboo vodka or things like that, through distillation as well. Any of the parts of bamboo can be used for that. And this is the tea that I first started with when I first started making tea, which was from the leaves, and it's still one of my favorites. It's got little pieces of stems in there. I do now separate out the stems and make that a separate thing. Oftentimes stems have more nutrients than leaves, actually. And I also use like the old and the new leaves together because you get different nutritional content in them. If I take 50 different bamboos, I will get 50 different colors and flavors of tea. It's that varied. Everything from a dark brown to a light yellow. And to date, I've probably made from maybe like about 75 different types of bamboo. So it's something that's very easy and, like I said, accessible to everybody. And it has amazing benefits. So there's actual fiber because of the silica content. There's actual fiber in the tea, which gives you all the digestive healing properties. And then the real calling card is that a lot of people are using in the United States in the cosmetic industry, and especially for hair growth, because it makes people's hair grow. This is the Calm Sheath again as a tea. It's fun, little curly cues. And these are the roots. So bamboo has two different types of roots. It's got structural roots that mimic the size of the culm, and then it's got these mat roots, right? And these mat roots are what kind of anchor it to the ground. It's, I liken the bamboo roots to like building in Miami, where you have to build this huge, platform that goes out over a long area, as opposed to building in New York where you get like a pine tree that goes down. Everything's within the top 1.5 to 2 feet at maximum is where all the root system is. And yet these things, I have plenty of hurricanes here, and they, a lot of them do really, really well. Some of them have a little bit weaker root system, but especially these ones with the massive mat roots really do well. And I like to use these. I like to make hydrosol from them, and they have just a wonderful earthy flavor to them. Make tea from them. Can't go too far without talking about charcoal and biochar, because charcoal made from bamboo is just an amazing medicine. And I don't think there's enough time in the whole forum to talk about all the things that it's good for, because it's one of the things that I tell people, just have one everywhere. Just carry charcoal wherever you go, because you can use it for any kind of food poisoning or, any kind of sensitivity to any food you've eaten. You can use it for a bug bite externally. You can take it for any kind of, when you start to feel sick in any sort of way, whether it's upper respiratory to any kind of digestion, you can take it for that. You can take it for detoxing. It's one of the few things that will adhere to heavy metals and actually remove them from your body. And that's especially important with aluminum, which is really hard to get rid of and affects the brain. And so using charcoal on a regular basis is really important, and it's cheap. It's another thing. You could make it at your house if you needed to. My dog almost died, and I saved her by giving her charcoal. She got bit by something poisonous. We're not even quite sure what. And just gave her little bits of charcoal, and she got better. So, and then biochar, which is medicine for the soil, right? Biochar is an amazing, amazing resource, and it's putting carbon back into the soil and making basically hotels for the, you know, the underground networks of bacteria and fungi to live in, and giving them protection, and encouraging that. And it's also allowing plants to grow better. But sequestering that carbon and putting it back in, I mean, even just that alone is an amazing benefit that bamboo has, because it has so much biomass. There's over 9,000 flavonoids in bamboo, and these are the antiviral, anti-tumor, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-ulcerogenic. And mostly these things are best extracted through ethanol. Some of them can do through a CO2 process. And with the ethanol, there's two different ways that I like to extract. One is just a very slow, long-term extraction with ethanol, where it just, you put it in there and let it sit and do its thing for a very long period of time, 6 months to a year, because it really takes a long time, again, to break down these fibers in the bamboo in order to make these nutrients bioavailable. And the other one that I've been recently playing with is the cryo extraction of ethanol, which is a different way to do it. And that's really focusing more on some of the terpenes that might be available. We're still testing on that, so we're going to see. Again, this is the, you know, the fungal networks that bamboo is able to create, these fungal and bacterial partnerships, is what allows it to be so medicinal. And without that, I mean, it, you know, it doesn't have it, but it can uptake so many minerals and so many nutrients and make them available back to us again. It's just an amazing process. And it's doing that through a lot of different things, including like all this leaf litter that is raining down and creating tons of biomass that's feeding back into the soil. Oftentimes, you know, we talk about bamboo as being kind of a standalone plant, but it really works in community with other plants and the whole network of the forest system. It's giving, and we know that some plants, when they are really good photosynthesizers, actually give back to other plants around them without receiving anything in return. And it's from watching bamboo and how things grow with it, I definitely see that happening. I've been living on my farm with bamboo for about 25 years. And it's amazing to watch the partnerships that happen naturally over that period of time. This is a picture of my place. And so, you know, with animals are really important to think about when we're talking about the utilization of leftover pieces of bamboo, you know, especially the leaves. When we're talking about construction, we're always talking about poles, but then there's all the leaf material left over. And it is an amazing forage, 13% protein, so it's not a high protein content. It's kind of in the middle to middle range, which is actually excellent for a lot of animals, because when we give them these high protein content meals, they eat too much too quickly, they get a lot of colic and things like that. They're actually supposed to eat lower protein and not gain weight as fast by nature. We're just trying to accelerate those processes. So it's an excellent forage and something that people can plant, because feeding animals is very expensive, and bamboo creates a lot of biomass that can feed a lot of different animals. And it's also habitat, right? So as a medicine, it's medicine for the habitat and the ecosystems. And there's a lot of animals that are dependent, animals and insects. And, you know, I noticed over the 25 years that I've been on my farm, just the diversity of insects And it's so important to protect our insect population. We really need them for the future of the planet. Without them, we won't exist for long. And so just the amount of habitat that bamboo provides, while also allowing us to use it for these functional purposes, is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
and
hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, hello. Primo, can you talk with me? Huh? Okay. Hey, I just continue on our previous program because you told us that you want to expand some collaboration in the field of the bioplastics and biohydrogen, right? Yes. So,
please carry on.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. And so finally, I want to talk about medicine in relation to plants, like using plant tea and in relation to what it does for plants. And what's amazing is that plants have kind of similar reactions that people and animals do, is that when you feed them the bamboo tea, what it does is it strengthens the plant. It gives it strength and flexibility, and it makes it a more resilient plant. This is especially true on baby plants. It helps them to become like more resistant to disease or getting attacked by funguses from when they're little, but even when they get bigger. And so that silica is literally creating a stronger exterior of the plant so that insects can't physically penetrate, that other diseases don't get access to it. And so it's just making it more resilient. The other thing that it's shown to do is that it can reduce the uptake of salinity, and it can increase the drought tolerance of a plant. And those are two things that are huge in the world right now. We have a lot of areas that are experiencing drought, and if we can address even a portion of this with bamboo, it's a really important thing to look at. And something, again, that can be done with just your backyard, one plant that you have, or the plant that is down the street from you that you can get access to, because there's so many leaves on these, and it doesn't take much to make this kind of tea and then feed it back to your plants. And then finally, I like to talk about companion planting. We did talk about a little bit about this in the World Bamboo Day. In Brazil, they're doing a lot of agroforestry programs, and there's a lot of different names that are being talked about, but essentially you have agroforestry, some tropic farming, permaculture. These are all systems that are planting with other plants and creating that biodiversity that is feeding back into the soil, because in nature, diversity is stability. And going in the direction of monocrops is not what we want to do. We do want to make it so that when we farm bamboo, it's accessible and it makes sense as to how we do it, but we can companion a plant with so many different plants in there, depending on how far along the age of the plants are. And this is, again, medicine back for the soil, medicine for the earth. And that's really important. There's a picture of bamboo tea. So still my favorite. I love that one. And when we talk about using bamboo and teas and things like that, it's always great to use it in conjunction with other things. And in fact, in the history of using bamboo as far as a medicine, it's always been used in formulation, meaning that it's partnered with other herbs and other medicinal valued plants, because it's a binder, and it binds nutrients and it binds herbal processes so that so it makes it more bioavailable. And this happens in the soil too, like all this leaf litter that you see here, that's all silica going back into the earth, and then that silica is helping to bind nutrients to make it more bioavailable to the other plants around it. And it does the same thing when it's in the tea. And then this is, if anybody has any further questions, This is all my contact information, Facebook, Instagram, website. And I really just want to say thank you so much for having me and for being a part of this amazing platform. I appreciate it.